Hello there, welcome along to the Transfer Show. The first window of the summer saw Manchester City spend big, more than £100 million. Now, the window has reopened and it stays open until September the 1st. And we're expecting clubs to be busy, and there could be a flurry of early activity. We've got updates on the futures of Florian Wirtz, Gyokeres, Brian Mbeumo, Andy Robertson and many more. And joining me to provide those updates for you, it is Mark McAdam and Michael Bridge. Afternoon, gents. We will see how the first piece in a potential domino effect for left-backs involving multiple Premier League clubs has moved closer. Enzo Maresca says Chelsea will sign a winger, but after two bids for Jamie Gittens were turned down in the first window, will they move on to another target? And the first signing of the Thomas Frank era at Spurs has been completed. Matthias Tel signing on a permanent deal now, but how much will that impact Frank's own transfer plans? We'll look into that for you. Happy window reopening, everybody. Yeah. Here we go again.
Did you get chocolate?
Yeah, go on, day one. Long summer, of course. So much is going to happen over the next 2.5 months, and there's already stuff happening today. Cogs are turning. Let's start with the developing story surrounding Florian Wirtz. This could well be one of the, if not the biggest deal of the summer, who knows? And the process of formally becoming a Liverpool player, Michael, is a step closer today.
What a huge deal this could potentially be for Liverpool Football Club. And the big update for you Liverpool fans is Florian Wirtz is expected to have his Liverpool medical on Friday. Exciting times for Liverpool and Arne Slot, isn't it? The medical is expected to be on Friday. He's going to fly into the UK later this week to talk about the completion of the deal, the medical. And let's remember, he's agreed a £116.5 million deal from Bayer Leverkusen, made up an initial £100 million payment plus £16.5 million potential add-ons. Of people wondering why is this happening. We've heard about this for the last few days. He's having his well-deserved post-season holiday. We don't envisage any issues whatsoever, Liverpool fans. This is the key. He only wanted Liverpool during this window and not for the money. So it could be a massive move for Arne Slot. And I've heard people already say, God, this is a lot of money, Liverpool. But let's remember, they didn't spend an awful lot last year, did they, Mark?
No, FSG historically have never really gone to town when it comes to transfers. They've always been very thought-driven. They've had a process. They've been targeting individual players and then only going to get them at the money that they're comfortable with. Whereas last summer, like Michael said, they didn't spend hardly any money. They just wanted Arne Slot to assess the team he had. It's a Premier League winning team, so it was a good building block for him to start with. And then, of course, they would start to put their stamp on that team and put their DNA into Liverpool. You had a new sporting director, Richard Hughes. You had Michael Edwards returning to the club as CEO of FSG. And you had a new head coach. So they just wanted everyone to get their feet under the table before they attacked the transfer window. And that's what they've done this summer. They've really gone to town. Frimpong in, Wirtz in, more players to come in. This Liverpool team already, at this stage of the transfer summer, could look like it being really, really formidable.
And if he only ever wanted Liverpool, why did Liverpool want him so much as a player?
Yeah, well, the key thing for Liverpool was they wanted to add creativity to that side because they'd lost Trent Alexander-Arnold, who was such a creative influence. But they're not going to replace Trent with another right-back that has the same metrics and data and creativity as he did. So, therefore, they had to get someone in a more orthodox position, which is what Wirtz does. He plays as a 10, can play as an 8, can also play out wide as well, so he adds that little bit of versatility. But there's no question he's a creative influence. You just have to look at some of his numbers in the Bundesliga last season. When it comes to big chances created in the entire league, he was second, only behind Michael Olise. When you look at assists in the league, second again behind Michael Olise. Possession won in the final third in the Bundesliga. So again, someone that can work hard for the team, someone that can press, someone that can win the ball high up the pitch and then make things happen. He's probably one of the best in his position in Europe, and he's only 22 years old. So Liverpool are saying, this is a lot of money, yes, but this is a player we feel can improve, get better, and make this Liverpool team more dynamic in the final third. You look at his vision, you look at his creativity, you look at his technical ability, and the fact that he can be that link between midfield and attack and be a part of the attack is a key reason why Liverpool went to town and spent in excess of £100 million.
Another man who's watched an awful lot of Wirtz is European football expert Kevin Hatchard, friend of the show. We have him on a lot, of course. Let's hear from him now. He gave us some more insight into what Liverpool fans can expect from Wirtz this season.
Yeah, I do think he could deal with the pressure because he's dealt with that kind of expectation since he burst onto the scene. He was seen as a rising star in German football, and he started delivering pretty much from the get-go. He became the youngest ever scorer in Bundesliga history at the time when he scored at 17 against Bayern, so already rising to the big occasion. When he was pushing for Bayer Leverkusen's first ever Bundesliga title, he delivered. I mean, that goal against Werder Bremen was part of a hat-trick, his first ever senior hat-trick. And that was the game that clinched the title for Bayer Leverkusen. So when the pressure's on, he tends to deliver. He tends to step up. So there's nothing in his history that would suggest that he'd be really worried or nervous about making this move.
Let's move on now to a player who's certainly proved he can hack it in the Premier League already. Brian Mbeumo, what a season he had for Brentford. Will he be following his boss, Thomas Frank, out of the club, though? Could he be heading to either Tottenham or Manchester United this summer? We'll get the Spurs angle shortly, Michael. Let's start with you, Mark. Manchester United, long link with Brian Mbeumo. Now they have competition for him. How confident will they be that they can sign him?
Well, they'll be really confident because there's been other Premier League sides that have also shown an interest in Brian Mbeumo as well. And actually, he's turned them down to join Manchester United. So the late interest from Tottenham is a spanner in the works, but I don't think it will disrupt this potential deal. Manchester United, as far as they're concerned, are relaxed about the current situation. They believe that Brian wants to join them in Old Trafford, so therefore they're confident, comfortable and relaxed with regards to his stance. You have to remember that Manchester United last week had their initial and first bid rejected by Brentford, which we understand to be a total of £55 million. Brentford looking for upwards of £60 million. So they're not a million miles away. You'd imagine that a second offer, which we said last week on Sky Sports News was being prepared, will be a lot closer to what Brentford are looking for. Brian Mbeumo has 1 year left on his Brentford contract with a club option additional year. So essentially he's got a 2-year deal left. So it is going to be a sizable fee that Manchester United are going to have to pay. However, he's not the only target they're looking at. They would be naive if they were to only put all their eggs in one basket, because things change in football and things change very quickly, as Michael knows. So therefore, they do have other options, but right now, it looks like it's going to be a Manchester United situation for Brian Mbeumo.
Spurs' interest, just a spanner in the works, to quote Mr. McAdam. Does Thomas Frank's arrival
don't quote me.
change that?
Well, let me just say, Spurs and Brentford have had very good negotiations over the last 10 days or so, and we've been reporting day after day on Thomas Frank's appointment at Tottenham Hotspur. That was never in doubt, and I'm sure people were bored of me saying it every day. But what I kept stressing was the delay. Well, not really a delay, it's probably the wrong word, but the coaches coming in, and they've taken some good coaches from Brentford. Now, you do wonder now what potential players Thomas Frank might fancy at Brentford, and does he want to take a number of players from Brentford? It is talking Nathan Collins, the defender who's been absolutely brilliant for them at Brentford. But in terms of Mbeumo, there have been initial discussions about a potential deal. They are interested in him. Antoine Semenyo is another player Spurs like as well. But at this stage of the window, they are just one of a number of top attacking players Spurs have been in discussions with. The encouragement Spurs have had, Jules, is the fact that Brian Mbeumo and Thomas Frank have a brilliant relationship. I mean, who doesn't like Thomas Frank? I'm not being funny, but they have a brilliant professional relationship. He's been absolutely outstanding. There was concerns when the likes of Ivan Toney left, Ollie Watkins, and Thomas Frank has always got this sorted out, and then Mbeumo has been absolutely outstanding. But I don't think Spurs are under massive pressure here. If he wants to join Manchester United, there's nothing much Tottenham can do, but they've been encouraged with the fact they get on so well, Frank and Mbeumo.
But I mean, could that change his mind, this relationship he has with Frank? Could that be the decisive factor?
Absolutely. I've been at deadline day, I've been at clubs on a deadline day, and a player has arrived and then he's disappeared again because he's got a better offer. Until that contract is signed, it's always possible that something else could come to the table. And that's what happens with these big deals. One phone call, one extra bit of money, one chunk more money for Brentford, and suddenly the dynamic shifts, and that's where you can never say never, and you always have to be prepared for the unexpected when you're talking about transfers.
And I think Thomas Frank will be at Tottenham this week, so potential, maybe some in-house media. It'd be interesting to hear about his appointment. He's always very engaging. We love hearing him on Sky Sports News. So the work there starts now.
But Spurs, Manchester United, both very keen on Mbeumo. Sticking with Manchester United, a striker. Guys, let's look at a couple of the names being very strongly linked with them. I'll come to you, Michael, shortly on Victor Gyokeres. Let's start, though, on Hugo Ekitike. Mark, this is an option for United. Any more than that? How concrete is this?
Yeah, well, we know that Manchester United are in the market for a number 9. Rasmus Højlund being linked potentially with a move back to Italy or Saudi Arabia. As far as he's concerned, he wants to stay and fight for his place, but will he have to fight for his place against maybe one of these two players? Hugo Ekitike nearly joined the Premier League a couple of years ago. Newcastle very interested in him. Had a phenomenal campaign last year at Eintracht Frankfurt. 34 goals and assists in 48 games, really showing the type of form that encouraged PSG to sign him not that long ago. He's now the main man, which is what he needed. Didn't get game time in France, but he's getting game time in Germany. There's been initial talks between Manchester United and Frankfurt. No formal bid as of yet, but United just exploring their options as to whether he may be the right type of number 9 for them. We're told that personal terms won't be a problem if he decided to go to Manchester United. But of course, Manchester United have an extensive list of possible striking targets, which brings in this man because he's got another one very much on the radar.
Yeah, and I mean, Gyokeres, his numbers, his goal-scoring numbers have been frightening over the last couple of years. Could he end up at Old Trafford?
54 goals in 52 games. It's quite staggering numbers, isn't it? It really is. But look, when Ruben Amorim arrived at Manchester United, we're talking about Gyokeres. There's contact via his intermediaries, but I don't know. This is an interesting one here. There's talk about this €100 million release clause. Gyokeres has then gone to social media basically saying don't believe all you read. But the two clubs you keep hearing, Manchester United, Arsenal, but then Arsenal looking at Benjamin Sesko as well. But again, we have to stress that we expect a very, very, very busy few weeks here transfer-wise. But clubs aren't under any pressure as it stands. Although what I would say is that clubs are always very keen to get these players in before they go on their long-haul pre-season tours. So I do expect I do expect this kind of movement maybe in the next week or so.
Manchester United are interesting at the moment because they're basically revitalising the front three. We know that Ruben Amorim wants to play with 2 10s. He wants to play with a number 9. They've got Matheus Cunha in. And Mbeumo looks like one. Could one of these two be the number 9? And that would be a completely new-look strike force for Manchester United. But it's just about piecing the puzzle together and getting the players in for the fees that the clubs are comfortable with. Victor Gyokeres is a player that I watch so much, and you probably remember talking about him on Soccer Specials and Soccer Saturdays because he used to score for fun at Coventry. I think he's outstanding. So much interest in him. You feel like this is the summer he'll get the big move back to the Premier League. If it doesn't happen now, it might not happen, and I think he knows that as well.
And also, just finally, this is a Manchester United who aren't in Europe next season. But will they have any issues with a player saying, no, I need to be in Europe, I need to be in Europe? This is Manchester United we're talking about. That's what intrigues me as well.
I don't think that's a problem.
I don't either.
You look at Cunha, Mbeumo, Hugo Ekitike, Victor Gyokeres, the players that they're being linked with clearly don't feel that one season out of Europe is a problem because they'll back themselves to say, I tell you what, if I go to Manchester United with all those players, we'll definitely be in Europe. Get
the old Sky remote, we'll go back to Mbeumo, we rewind it a little bit, because they could be having that conversation. Thomas Frank, you are in the Champions League with me. Anyway, that's for 7.
Ooh, nice tease.
A little tease there.
We've got a whole hour with these two at 7 o'clock. This is just a little taster for you. And we're going to move on from strikers after the break. We're going to turn to left-backs. I'll tell you why, because we're going to explain how the first domino of a potential transfer treble has fallen today. 1 down, 2 more could follow. More next. Welcome back. We are 19 minutes into the first day of this transfer window. And Michael, you've already got some news for us from Palace.
Yes, a bit of news that's been widely reported elsewhere. As Crystal Palace expect to announce the signing of goalkeeper Walter Benitez. I expect that in the next few days. He's a 32-year-old goalkeeper out of contract at PSV. A number of clubs were looking at him, but I expect him to sign for Crystal Palace. And I know there's concerns about will they or won't they be in Europe. The ultra-ambitious Oliver Glasner is preparing for Europe, and a goalkeeper who wants to challenge for that number one spot is coming in.
Good stuff. Right, let's turn to this game of left-back dominoes. 3 left-backs, one's fallen, which could lead to 2 more consequently falling after that. Michael, I'll start with you. Adrien Truffert to Bournemouth. Done?
Yep, done. Confirmed at lunchtime. 11 million with 3 million add-ons. A 5-year deal confirmed by Bournemouth. We are well underway in this transfer window. Will he be providing any competition, Mark? What do you reckon?
Of course, everyone's talking about Milos Kerkez to Liverpool. But Bournemouth will be extremely happy with this business. Financially, it looks great. The fact that he's a young international as well also looks great. They've just signed the Rennes captain. Now, when you think of captains, you think of experience, you think of quality, you think of leadership, you think about certain characteristics that maybe not all players have. But the fact that they've signed someone who made 150 league appearances in May, you get the idea at 23, he's played games, he's got experience. Quite interestingly, actually, Bournemouth had him on their left-back list when they signed Milos Kerkez. But they actually decided at that particular time, we'll get a younger player and maybe go on a little bit of a journey and see if we can develop him. And you'd say probably Kerkez developed quicker than Bournemouth anticipated. Outstanding player, and that's why he's being linked with Liverpool. But they also liked Adrien Truffert, and they kept monitoring, kept watching him, kept keeping an eye on him and seeing how he developed. He ended up becoming the Rennes captain because of those qualities. Barely missed a game as well, which shows how robust he is as a player. Bournemouth feel there'll be no transition. If they do lose Kerkez, they don't feel like it will be a player that has to come in and understand the league and get up to the pace of the Premier League. They feel like he can hit the ground running and start playing immediately in that team.
If they leave Kerkez. How big an if is that?
Well, of course, they're preparing potentially for the departure of Milos Kerkez. There's no smoke without fire. We know that there's interest from Liverpool. We know that Liverpool made contact with Bournemouth last week to start those negotiations. At the minute, there's been no formal offer. I don't anticipate this to be bid offered, bid rejected, second offer, bid rejected, third offer. This will be a one-time hit. There's a brilliant relationship between Liverpool and Bournemouth. Richard Hughes, who was at Bournemouth for 15 years or so, obviously knows how they operate. There's a mutual respect between them, the manager, and the sporting directors and technical directors in place down on the South Coast. So it will be a case of, right, what do you want? And it will be yes or no. And they'll probably just do a little bit of shuffling with the finances and the structure of the deal. But I'd imagine this one now, to pick up pace and to answer Michael's question, is this someone to replace Milos Kerkez or compete with him? Probably replace him is your answer.
OK, so Truffert in at Bournemouth. That could well lead to Kerkez going to Liverpool. Therefore, Michael, Andy Robertson, what would that mean for him?
Well, there's a lot of interest in Andy Robertson from Atletico Madrid. I know Andy Robertson was talking about his future last few days on Scotland duty. Of course, Liverpool have also got Kostas Tsimikas as well. And if he's entering his final year, you do wonder if Liverpool might consider it. And we know Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone likes the Premier League. He loves watching the Premier League players. Kieran Trippier, that worked out well. Conor Gallagher seems to be going great. So this could be another Premier League-based player on his way. As I say, final year on his deal, which could be key.
Lots of players we're keeping a close eye here on the transfer show. We're now going to turn to Chelsea, who were frustrated in their deadline day pursuit of Borussia Dortmund's Jamie Gittins, weren't they? 2 bids rejected. And speaking at the Club World Cup, Enzo Maresca says the club will be bringing in a winger this summer.
Jadon is not with us, so for sure that is a position that probably we need to do something. Also because, as you already know, Misha is not with us. So in this moment we have Noni, Pedro and Tai as a proper winger. So for sure something is going to happen. And we said many times, when the window transfer is open, anything can happen to bring players or to sell players. But we see.
Pretty unequivocal about it. They're going to be getting a new winger this summer, Michael. How great is their need, would you say, in that position?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm just intrigued. We've got Carve out there, of course, how Chelsea and Manchester City are going to get on when this tournament finishes. There's not going to be a pre-season for them. Premier League starts straight away. Well done for winning the Conference League, Enzo, but we're going up 2 levels now into the Champions League. I am really, really intrigued by Chelsea next season.
We know, obviously, they had Jadon Sancho, but decided to send it back to Manchester United and pay the £5 million fee. So I guess it's only a matter of time before they get someone. He was quite clear there. They're going to get a right winger. They want a right winger. We know that there was interest in Jamie Gittings at Borussia Dortmund. As you said, Jules, 2 rejected offers. That second offer on deadline day last week, the Club World Cup deadline day, of £42 million, a total package, was rejected. The player, though, wants the Premier League, wants to join Chelsea, even said, actually, he'd rather play for Chelsea at the Club World Cup than play for Borussia Dortmund. Be interesting to see how much involvement he has over in America for the Club World Cup, because Borussia Dortmund play Fluminense tomorrow, 5 o'clock kickoff UK time. But yeah, Jamie Gittings, definitely a player on Chelsea's radar.
We'll talk more about Chelsea at 7 o'clock, but let's just get to Brighton. A quick word on them and developments on a deal for a young Italian defender, Mark.
Yeah, Brighton, young, hungry players that are talented, that can develop, that fit into their system. Their data model to recruit is outstanding. The medical was completed for Diego Coppola, 21-year-old centre-back from Hellas Verona. It's going to be a 5-year deal, 11 million euros, and he's currently out in Slovakia for the Italy under-21. So another international player, another name for the future.
OK, we'll keep an eye on that one as well. Lots more to come. More in-depth transfer chat later on this evening with both Mark and Michael and myself. Join us for the next transfer show coming up at 7 tonight with us here on Sky Sports News. Next, though, on the Sports Centre, we'll bring you the developing story surrounding Gareth Bale. What about this? A potential buyout of Plymouth Argyle. Could Bale be involved? All the details coming up and much, much more on the Sports Centre after the break.